Delivery, robotics, we are seeing a massive shift in today's retail consumer environment of how we're going to be getting things. So we decided to say, hey, let's dive into this a little deeper. So we're going to do that today right here on Tech Path. My name is Paul Barron. Great to have you guys back. And of course, as always, we love to get great guests that are actually in the field doing the work. With me today from Serve Robotics is MJ Chun. Great to have you.
It's great to be here.
MJ, what do you do over there?
I am lucky enough to be the head of product at Serve Robotics and also one of the co-founders.
Get into a little bit about how Serve Robotics is kind of set up with some of the third-party delivery companies. Obviously, Uber, Postmates, heavily involved. How did you guys get connected? How does this work now that all of this is happening?
So the origin story of Serve Robotics, we started up as a little startup within Postmates. And
got it.
Postmates X was our moniker for a long time. It was a really small team. We started with sensor validation, and it's always been about improving the delivery experience, as well as solving problems for both Postmates, for Postmates drivers, as well as the customers. And we had always this amazing ability to look at the data of the real deliveries being done on the Postmates platform to inform what problems could be solved and why a robot, why the sidewalk. And then recently, after Postmates was acquired by Uber, we were spun off, and so now we're Serve Robotics.
Very cool. So is it still standalone, or are you kind of working with both companies now? Are you working some with Uber and some with Postmates? How does that work?
So we are standalone, but our delivery deals are with Postmates / Uber. So Uber Eats at this point.
Yeah, sure. Would this be something that Serve could eventually become available to other third-party delivery platforms? Is that kind of the intention for it, or where do you see that direction going?
So the future would be, of course, all the Serve robots just being another member of a fleet, whether it's different delivery platforms or directly with merchants, whether you're a retail merchant or a grocery store. It really doesn't matter. The robot doesn't care. It's capable of delivering goods across the city and can carry up to 150 pounds. So it really is about getting things throughout the city to people who want them when they need them.
Okay, so we're going to get a chance. I want to dive into some of the application uses for it, how that would work, all that good stuff. But before we go there, I want to talk about the technology and just the device itself. So this is basically a small little, robot that looks kind of like almost like a cooler that's running up and down, has a few screens on it. And how's the technology work? How does the autonomy work? What's the whole process? Do you guys have a command center like a little drone pilot? What's the process?
So I'll start with the robot itself. It is shoulder width apart, average adult width apart. It travels on the sidewalk. And our biggest design inspiration requirement is that it has to cohabitate with people. So we really want to build robots for the public space. The heart and brains of the robot on board connected, through the cloud to a command center. So we do have supervisors who oversee the safety and jump in when a robot needs help. It's what we call a hybrid fleet. So we have people involved every step of the way, ensuring quality as well as safety. And that's the heart of it. And the robot is autonomous in that it can get around the city in our operating region, mainly in LA. It gets goes to the merchant's location. If you are integrated with, say, Postmates and have a merchant tablet, the robot will let the folks know inside that it's time to come outside and load the goods. And it'll, go on its merry way to the customer and let the customer know that it's outside. And so it is self-navigating. It avoids obstacles, and um, that's the heart of what it does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
It
I was just going to ask, when you were saying that there is some human intervention, what dictates, I guess, back to your command center, so to speak, of when a human operator would intervene? Is there maybe the thing is ran out of juice, it's off the sidewalk, it's maybe hit somebody, bumped into somebody? How does that? What determines when they have to jump in?
We're very safety first. So if the robot is unsure in any way, it'll stop. And for us operating in LA, it could be anything from folks are standing in front of the robot because they want to take a selfie with it. That's definitely a thing that we'll encounter. To we've had pet goats block the path. So it really is a range of things that the robot will raise its hand and say, I need eyes on and guidance.
All right, so it's giving some feedback from its current environment back to your system there. How many total robots are in the fleet right now?
So we are fluctuating, but give or take, we'll have 20 robots in market.
Is that something that I guess when you're building these, are these built in here in the US, or are they built abroad or assembled here in the US? How's that work?
So we manufacture them in the Bay Area.
Okay, very cool. So manufacturing there, the autonomy side of it from a software element, I mean, there's so many different autonomous companies out there that are developing self-driving technologies for automobiles, but is this something that's done in-house, or have you partnered with somebody specifically?
So we are fully proprietary, the full stack, whether it's the hardware design or the autonomy system is all Serve Robotics. And I think it's one of the reasons why we've been able to have tight quality control and integration. We designed the hardware with the sensors in mind, with the perception and prediction team involved in those conversations. And it enables us to really focus on a very specific use case, which is a sidewalk. So unlike autonomous cars, the sidewalk is much safer in that, the average adult brisk walk speed's about 3 miles. So that's what these robots are really doing is walking briskly down the sidewalk. The consequence of being, hit by a robot at a brisk walk speed is very different than the high consequence of, a 2-ton car at even 30 miles per hour. So that's one of the things that we really hyper focus on is sidewalk safety. The other element, though, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that being the case with all these different variations. Maybe even like a bike messenger or bike delivery, which there's a lot of that in the inner cities. On your delivery map there in LA, are you staying in the downtown area, or have you moved it out into any other areas within Los Angeles?
We find a lot of our business around Hollywood, and then we've also been in West Hollywood as well when we're under Postmates. And that's effectively where a lot of the demand is. So the call out here is these robots were designed to solve very short distance, heart of city deliveries. It's actually the type of deliveries that the regular fleet tend not to like, because these are short distance deliveries. You're getting in and out of your car. The payouts aren't as good. You're fighting traffic. These are the busiest parts where, all the hot restaurants are right by each other. And so that's where the sidewalk robots come in. It means that we have the flexibility to send robots and not clog up the streets. It also means that you're not double parking and you're reducing the stress for the folks who are doing the longer distance deliveries.
Yeah, right. I could say. So, are you guys mapping at the same time? Obviously, sidewalks have a lot of elements to them, just like a road. Everything from light construction, somebody's redoing their patio, cracks and all these kind of things that come up, or you have those impedance on a sidewalk where somebody has parked in the middle of it, or a kid on a bike. How are those kinds of interventions solved?
These are great call outs. They're actually all the things that you've mentioned are things that we think about. And for more permanent issues, uneven sidewalk being a big one in LA. Who knew? Sidewalks aren't perfectly flat. Um, we actually do change the routing and directions given to the robot based on these sort of semi-permanent landscapes. And then there's some more dynamic pieces that come in. So we've seen an increase of cafe tables and chairs and outdoor dining and parklets. And so that'll then also feed into the robot's understanding of the world and whether or not we optimized for those sidewalks. And then there's more temporary obstacles like a moving van, for example. And that's a case where the robot will ask for a supervisor to step in and reroute or wait, whatever that decision is.
Interesting. So, all right. So let's move on to kind of the application use cases. You've got a scenario. Obviously, food delivery is going to be a big one. That's kind of the no-brainer here. Also retail, also maybe some other logistical services, like messenger, maybe things of that nature. Is there a opportunity here for someone to buy their own fleet, say a restaurant operator that says, I need 2 of these robots for myself? How would that work, or can it work that way today?
Today, one exciting partnership we have is with Pink Dot in West Hollywood. And so they have 3 Pink Dot branded robots that do delivery in that area. We absolutely would love to have, or I guess better to say, we'd love to expand merchant capability by enabling them to add robots to their delivery options.
Now, this is it's a robot that, do they own it, or are they just getting to brand it and you're still running it from the logistics, autonomy, update, software, all that stuff? Is that how it works?
It's the latter. So we are
Okay.
robot delivery as a service.
Gotcha. Okay. But you could brand one and kind of keep them there, or do they move? I guess they have to stay there if you're branding it.
It depends on the partnership that makes sense. So for some merchants, it may be that they want exclusives, and for other merchants, they may want their branding out in the world. And the best way to get eyes on the robot is it's out there doing deliveries.
How does that, okay, so cost for service, is there a maintenance to a retailer or an operator that they're paying, or is it just hey, I'm paying by delivery, or I'm paying a monthly rate? How does that work? What's the monetary side of it?
That is completely up to the partnership, but in terms of maintenance and operational sides of things, that's what we take care of. So
right. Okay.
It's delivery as a service, whatever makes sense for certain use cases. For example, for some folks, having scheduled deliveries is the most important thing. We just need a robot to make sure that it's available for deliveries in certain timeframes. For others, it may be, hey, we have so much demand that it's really about a per delivery model, and everything in between. Because I think one of the most exciting things about where we are with this increased demand for delivery is it completely opens up what gets delivered when, at what cadence, whether it's making sure something gets across the city at 2 a.m. versus making sure that a restaurant can increase their lunch rush output because there's more delivery options.
Yeah, and I think this could really solve the problem that a lot of people have right now. I know we use a delivery service even here, and I've often found that either one, the service is backed up, so you don't get the service till the next day, which that's a problem today, especially with this on-demand, economy. And or you get drivers that are, employed by the third parties that in some cases, they're in and out. You don't know necessarily if you've got a full network available, where these bots would essentially be there all the time, depending on inventory, if you had enough of them.
Hmm.
Obviously you can, kind of go against that in terms of leveraging what you have in inventory to what you have in terms of partnerships. Let's talk a little bit about, okay, so I've got a bot, or you've got the bots. I partner with you. Let's just say I'm Chipotle, and I want to run, my burritos on there in October. Could I put an ad skin on this and have these things running around during Halloween looking like little burritos?
Absolutely.
There you
It's
go. We got a
actually
burrito bot.
Marita. We did actually have the robots dressed up for Halloween this past Halloween. They had costumes,
That
and
would be fun.
it was one of the highlights was we had a kid who lives in the neighborhoods where the robots are operating who dressed up as Serve for Halloween. And so we were able to follow up on his birthday and deliver a present via Serve.
Very cool. I like that. Well, it's cool. It's an interesting thing, and I think as we see society start to really kind of embrace technology and move kind of to this new era of how we're going to be interfacing with machines, when you look at that as a challenge for Serve, is it something that you look at and say, hey, we've got to figure out a way to make these, very friendly feeling, in the sense that we get acceptance by consumers and also by businesses as well. But if the consumers are accepting them, then the businesses are obviously going to accept them. What kind of methods or ideas and models are you guys taking into consideration to try to prep the consumer for these things?
One of the biggest things that this is actually one of the biggest things we obsessed about. These robots live or die based on public perception. So if we can add value to people's lives and delight folks, then these robots have a future. The largest user group for these robots really isn't the consumer that's getting the burrito or the merchant that's loading the burrito. It's actually the people walking next to the robot or the drivers who are driving along the robot. They're the ones who are interacting with the robot the most. And so for us, it really matters that the robot takes into consideration being a good sidewalk citizen, sharing the road. It will stop for pedestrians. It won't wait in the curb cutout, but off to the side so that people always have right away.
Mm.
Every little detail around its movement is really about being a good sidewalk citizen for that specific reason, which is, these robots have to be valuable, and it's always people first. The other
Yeah,
thing
I like that.
is the other thing that I mentioned about the sidewalk nature of it and why it's a shoulder's width in terms of breadth is that it's not big and bulky. We all know what it's like to kind of do that awkward dance where you're like, which way are you going? At least the robot is designed to be easily passable by, someone who's walking briskly because they got to get somewhere, or possibly, someone who's pushing a stroller or on a mobility device. So those are the key things that we think about. And it's also what informs our design. We want to make sure that the robot is friendly and delightful because it can either add to your day and you can see it and laugh and be delighted by it, or it can detract from your day by being,
Sure.
scary looking. And that's definitely something that drives us because we actually enjoy building the world that we want to live in. And the design of the robot absolutely is critical to that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I like that approach because I think you're right. The whole, I guess the trip or the journey is kind of where you're going to see the most number of people that are going to be
Mhm.
going. I could completely see that. Okay. So let's talk back to technology for a second, because if I'm looking at either computer vision via using camera systems like what maybe a Tesla is using for their autonomy, or something like what Lumen is doing over at LiDAR with LiDAR. I understand it. I think you guys use LiDAR. Is that correct on how you're interfacing? Okay, so With LiDAR being the case as opposed to, say, going the route of computer vision, was that something that you guys just felt was the faster path to market, or do you think you could go to the extent of computer vision in the future, which could kind of increase the adaptation of the robot's ability? What are your directions there in terms of your roadmap?
We're multimodal actually. So
Okay. So you're
it's
using
not
cameras and LiDAR.
and ultrasonics.
Very nice.
What we want is multimodal because the redundancy we believe is critical for safety. There are different ways to perceive the world, and so by having LiDAR, even human eyes in the loop with the human supervisors, reviewing video feed, ultrasonics, all those pieces add up to a much more deeper understanding of the world. It means that the robot can change its path planning much more flexibly, and it gives us that redundancy and safety that I mentioned earlier.
Very cool. I like that. Well, I think that's the future of where we're going to see interfaces with machines, especially around autonomy, is going in that direction, especially as I love the fact that you guys are going that direction. Plus you add one more element, which is the kind of that control or command center. So that's a big factor. Any kind of challenges that you faced with vandalism or any kind of negative pushback from the devices being in the sidewalks of cities and things of that nature? Have you dealt with that yet?
There's definitely things that we will observe from things that make the delivery later. So folks who interact with the robot, whether they jump in front because they want to see how smart it is, or maybe blocking it to, take a photo of it, all the way to trying to push the robot. And what we actually see is more of the things that impact the delivery time. So, just looky-loo mischief, light mischief. What we've discovered along the way is that there's a lot the human supervisors can do to address the situation. And so once again, the robot raises its hand and asks for help. De-escalation is actually the primary thing that we're trying to achieve for that situation. And so it may be that playing dead and being boring is the best path forward, or maybe backing up and taking a different route out of a particular area where the incident is happening. Because at the end of the day, it's more important that people are safe than the burrito be a little bit late. And so what we've evolved over time is an entire standard operating procedure around human-robot interaction.
How many total deliveries have you guys done so far within the fleet?
Tens of thousands at this point.
Okay, so you're getting a ton amount of research data and feedback from this. Let's talk about the cost. Are these expensive to build? What's the charge up time if you did have to deal with hundreds or thousands of these in a city as a fleet aspect? What's the kind of the dynamics there?
So the charge up time is several hours. So it's like a few hours. It's not a big charge time at all, and they last all day. So they're out 10 a.m. say and back at 10 p.m. What we're trying to do is really capture lunch and dinner rush, and we'll have the robots online all day. They are illuminated at night, so they have headlights. So the pilots and human supervisors can easily see what's going on from a visual review perspective, and also lighting so that drivers and pedestrians can easily make them out at night. During the day, they are also illuminated. They have their own daytime mode for safety as well. And then different colors and animations that they can play so that they are not just going about the delivery, but a little more entertaining and delightful.
Yeah, the video of them look like they're really fun to interact with. So I think that you design wise, you guys have hit a home run with them, because I think they're very non-threatening. It feels, they somewhat look natural in the sense of just being able to know what that it is. So great job on all that. I want to ask you this last question, and that is about the expansion, because obviously with third party and also just delivery in general, expanding beyond just restaurants and all other sorts of retail applications. How fast can you guys scale and get to the next level of being able to go multi-city, or maybe really starting to move into some of the inner cities with these robots?
So I think the decision to expand is somewhat dependent on the growth in Los Angeles. And so we're constantly weighing what is left in terms of opportunity in Los Angeles versus expansion. So expansion is could be another city, another country. At the end of the day, what we're realizing is there's so much growth, especially with the last year in Los Angeles, that our current focus will be expanding to different neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and then also different retail verticals.
There you go. Again, Los Angeles wins as usual. Seems like LA always gets the great tech as it rolls out into the industry.
We're by no means adverse to going elsewhere, but as of yet, the opportunity is still in LA.
This would be a great product down here in Miami. This little Serve robot, get a suntan, everything would be fun. We should do that. Let's get him down here. Her.
We could get ice cream delivered. Actually, every robot has their own name. So we've had
very cool.
So it's LA based. We've had Keanu to Idris.
I love it. I love it. Very cool. Well, listen, MJ, it's been great having you on today. Thank you so much for stopping in. Good luck to what you guys are doing out there at Serve. I think it's definitely the time for it. We are seeing the evolution of robotic use in our society, I think, has finally made it. And great to see that companies like you are right here at the perfect timing for getting us to the next level of technology. So great having you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so you guys are listening in, maybe over on the podcast, make sure and leave a rating. We love to get your feedback over there. And if you are on YouTube catching this, make sure and hit the like button and also subscribe. That's how you're going to get great content right here on TechPath. It's also how we move and get information on how we can deliver content to you and topics that really kind of jazz you up, whether it's crypto or AI or autonomy, or maybe it's electric vehicles, whatever it might be that kind of fits into what you're interested in, mainly understanding how you're watching our videos and interfacing a lot with our podcasts and some of our other content. That's the best way for us to learn. So make sure and take all those steps, try to get to us as many places as you can. And of course, you can always reach us via email if you have an idea for a show, and that's just producer@revernetworks.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.